ParentingTT is celebrating its 25th anniversary in 2020, and we just wanted to take a few minutes just to reflect on how the organization has grown over the last few years. And with me, we have Marina Torres, one of our founders, Barbara King, another founder of ParentingTT, and our honorary member of ParentingTT, Dorian Porter.
Yay!
So, ladies, what motivated you all to take on this monumental task of starting up an NGO?
We didn't intend to start an NGO.
No, we didn't.
We were just providing information for parents who we felt needed information. So we started with a newsletter. I was teaching, Marina was doing her psychologizing, and we just kept seeing parents that were clearly confused about what parenting was. And so we started to put the newsletter together. And that's all we were doing, was putting a newsletter together to pass on information to parents.
And we began as well to do talks. Some of Barbara, Marilyn, and I were involved in different things where we could talk about parenting. So we began to look at how can we share this information by talking to people, having conversations with them, listening to them. So we started doing talks at schools. I was on, I think, TTT at the time. I would do talks on parenting and child development. And I think we did a couple radio on request or at schools on request. And, you know, I found in my experience, and Barbara and Marilyn shared it, that the people didn't have access to information that we thought was readily available. So we didn't intend to set up an NGO, but we always intended to educate, inform, increase people's awareness that this information is there and you can access it this way, you know. And we also, I think one of the things that we always talk about for us is that we also wanted people to know that there is support there and it's okay to get support.
One of the challenges was that at that time, 25 years ago, there weren't that many books on parenting in the bookstores.
No.
There wasn't the internet. In fact, there were hardly articles in the newspaper about parenting. The stories in the newspaper were usually when parents did something wrong.
Yes.
So having access to the information just wasn't there. So Marilyn, who was part of the founding of the newsletter, Marilyn was involved in teacher education.
Yes.
And me working with the children in the school, and Marina from her psychological perspective, we had information that parents didn't necessarily have. So we thought, let's get this information out because clearly it's needed. Because we saw that parents were making mistakes that were based on lack of information.
Yep.
So you started with the newsletter trying to get information out to parents.
Yes.
And at what point did you decide we really need to set up an NGO?
Well, the newsletter got circulated by us photocopying them and telling people to just pass them on. Photocopy it and pass it on. And so out of that came requests for talks.
Yes.
People calling with problems at all hours of the day and night.
And morning. 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Wow. So parents obviously wanted the help.
Yes.
And so we moved to doing workshops. And there was clearly a demand for this. Parents wanted not only the information, but they wanted the information the way that we were giving it.
Yes.
It wasn't just lecturing, we were actually listening to them. And we'd also started a support group. So we could get parents together to just come and share whatever they were going through and get some emotional and psychological support. It wasn't a psychological support group, it was just let's talk. And so the demand for the newsletter increased. And we realized we had to start printing. And once we started printing it, we needed money. And in order to get money from funders, you had to have some form of organization. And so, in order to be able to do more and get the newsletter further, we needed to formalize some kind of structure.
Yes.
For the founders. I think we would have been quite happy to keep on just doing the newsletter.
Doing the talks and supporting people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the formalization had to be done for the founders to be accountable for funding.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So you went to Ministry of Legal Affairs, registered the organization, and the full name of the organization is?
Trinidad and Tobago Innovative Parenting Support.
But the first name that we wanted was Friends of the Family.
Friends, oh yes, that was the first name, Friends and Family. Because that basically was a little friend group. We sit down, we share information.
Yes, Friends of the Family.
We support people, help people.
So what made you change from that?
The registry rejected the name.
Yes.
Okay.
And we had to submit like 4 or 5 different versions that we would like. And they picked the one that I guess they felt could work.
Yes.
So what made you decide on Trinidad and Tobago Innovative Parenting Support? Why this innovative parenting support part of the name?
Innovative part was because I was seeing that there were other people doing parenting stuff.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do it differently.
Okay.
The typical thing would be somebody would stand in front of a group of parents and lecture them and tell them what they were doing wrong and what they should be doing. And I knew we didn't want to be doing, I personally didn't want to be doing that. And Marina and Marilyn weren't interested in anything like that.
No.
So we wanted it to be different. And the innovative was also that we recognized that the way that we had been parenting traditionally as a culture had to change as well. But we weren't telling people you have to do it this way or that way, but that we had to find new ways of raising this group of children that were completely different. And in an environment where research was showing that things like corporal punishment just don't work. And particularly at that time, one of the focus points that got us so many invitations was that child sexual abuse was rearing its head very boldly. And so there had to be a change there in the way that people perceive children and the way they were generally treated and approached.
Another reason was that we'd meet with parents when we'd realize that these parents didn't credit their wisdom. They knew in their gut, they knew in their intuition that they needed to do it differently. As a matter of fact, many of them knew the right thing to do. But the pressure of society, family, and past history made them feel they needed to meet a standard that they knew was not appropriate. And one of the things that we became aware of, we wanted to honor was parents' wisdom. That they did know what to do. They needed support and guidance. So we had to be revolutionists in telling them, you do know, and you need to trust your intuition. And you need people to support you in what you know, and then you source information to help expand what you know. Because most of the parents would come and they're doing it a particular way and they say, I know I shouldn't be doing it this way, but there's so much pressure for me to do it this way. And I know it's not working for the child. I know the child is not coping well. So we realized that we needed to support parents and encourage them to use their intuition while also educating them to support that.
And they needed support in those early days of trying to be different, because it was so easy to feel that I'm doing this wrong because everybody else is saying something different. So they needed help to go a little bit further with the new thing that they wanted to try. So in the first stage, we did a lot of listening. We really listened to parents, and that was part of the innovation, because most people who were doing parent education weren't listening.
Okay.
They came with all the information, but they didn't listen to the parents or the children.
Yeah, and a good example of that was, that I'd gone on the TV or the radio, and I'd talk about listening to parents, and I'd talk about parents knowing their children. And so parents were going to schools and would tell teachers, my child is this way, and I know that. I just need help to support that. Teachers were getting upset. What happened to these people telling parents they know what they have to do? They can't know what they have to do. We are trained.
Would you say though that is unique to ParentingTT, and how, especially trying to change the pre-existing culture of parenting and the perceptions about parenting, would you say that, trying to empower parents with their own wisdom and gather the collective wisdom in a group, changing that culture, being revolutionary in the way that you did that, would you say that those are unique? Those are ways that are unique to how ParentingTT operates, the philosophies upon which it was established.
Go ahead.
Marina, I think so, because I think when I came on board, the first thing for me that I realized was that ParentingTT didn't conform. They had their own style of doing things. And I remember doing a presentation at a preschool graduation, and in sharing with the parents that you have to give the children the confidence to make mistakes. They're stepping out. And at the end of the presentation, a parent came to me and said, but how could you say that, how could you tell parents something like that? And I said, yes, children have to know that it's okay if I don't do something right. That's how I'm going to learn. So, and as Barbara was saying earlier, for me, that was really an eye-opener, because it helped me to understand that, okay, we're not here to tell parents what to do or to fix them, but to really help them to believe in themselves and to believe in what they were doing, and probably maybe tweak it a little bit sometimes, or add it a compliment, so that they will get a better result. That's what it was for me. That's what I was seeing.
Now, as an NGO, ParentingTT, an NGO that's been around for 25 years, I'm assuming that it was smooth sailing for the 25 years, right? Smooth sailing. Everything went well?
No, we shut down about 3 times.
We never shut down totally.
Never took. We never gave up.
We were close to shutting down, but never shut down.
So what were some of those major challenges that you all faced during those 25 years?
Finances would have been the greatest challenge. Because whereas we were doing it voluntarily, when we started, we were using our own money, we were using our own resources. As it grew, it took more of our time, and it meant that we needed to have more money. And if we were using more of our time, it meant it was cutting back on other things that we're doing. So we were earning less money in our own private lives. So we had to decide whether or not we'd give this more time or hire people to help us to do it. But to hire people meant you had to have money. But another thing that took, as Barbara said, once we were sharing information with people, we needed to have money to do so for the newsletters. And people weren't willing to really pay us the value for the workshops that we are doing, or they couldn't afford to, or they didn't see it as important enough to pay for. So we had to put resources in order to help people out there to know this is important. We had to create an interest. There was an interest, but we had to create an interest that it was valuable.
But how did you do that?
By continuing to be open to listen, by continuing to be different, because yes, there were workshops, yes, there were talks, but we were being different in the sense that we were valuing parents, because we were very clear that if parents came for help, we honored that. Whether or not they were able to receive the help and use it as they should, for us was a stage. It was not something bad about the parent. It's just that they still had a lot of growing to do. So how do we help them to do that growing? We also honored the fact that if we're sharing information with parents, we wanted it to be relevant. So while we had access to foreign information on parenting, there are lots of books on parenting that we had access to from abroad. I was trained abroad. Marilyn had some. Marilyn and I were both teaching at UE in education. All three of us had books from abroad, but we didn't just wanted to share information from an American or English book. We wanted to know how can we make it relevant for parents in Trinidad. It's relevant to our culture, our life experiences. So we didn't just photocopy and hand out to parents.